Test, test. All right. So welcome to Friday afternoon in Zambezi, talking about user authentication. I was surprised that, I guess I'm a little surprised at the interest in this talk. I wasn't sure if it would even be accepted, but seems maybe there are some folks in here who have a shared experience that I've had, which is I was building a web app and user auth completely stopped me in my tracks at one point. Show of hands, has that happened to any of you? Okay, a little bit. If it hasn't happened to you, if I get a brave volunteer, why are you here? Okay. Are you familiar with AWS, their landscape, or Cognito, or you are? Okay. Okay. Have you ever used it yourself, or just now kind of getting into it? Okay, so this is a little bit of a timing thing for you. Cool. Somebody else. Okay, cool. All right, nice. Anybody else? Yeah. Never tried user auth. Cool. Cool. Well, then you won't have to struggle through it because you'll have the blueprint after this. Yeah. I'm sorry? Oh, okay. It's kind of a nightmare. Oof. Okay. Come on in. We're talking about user auth. Okay. Well, cool. So we got a mixed bag. We got some people who maybe have a shared experience with me. We've got some folks who are interested in Cognito specifically. We've got at least one that has just never done it, and so this is like an intro. So that's cool. Anybody else have a story that's like completely different from any of those I just summarized, or does everybody fit into one of those buckets?
Auth is basically imposter syndrome in a can for me.
It's what?
Imposter syndrome in a can.
Okay, me too. Still. Yeah.
After my first experience storing passwords plain text, I just don't trust myself. I can do it. It's wrong.
I'm just a security guy here to keep an eye on everyone.
Okay. See, that's what I was looking for. I was looking for that one right there. Like somebody who's going to be like, yeah, you shouldn't do it that way because it's not very secure. But cool, I'm glad you're here. You can back things up or correct them if they're wrong. So we'll get this stuff out of the way. I am going to we're going to be doing a lot of demo today. And so code will be on my GitHub in the CodeMash 2023 repo. I did give another talk yesterday, so I have like 2 sets of things in there. You'll find it. It's called user auth. And then these slides are available right now on slides.com. Cool little, kind of got into that. I was going to kill that subscription I have, but then this was coming up and I kind of like presenting from there. So anyways. All right, so in terms of, wow, that got loud. In terms of schedule, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'll tell you my story. We'll spend a lot of time in the Cognito space, and then we'll talk about some of the other things that were listed in the description for this talk. So MFA, social, OTPs, Passport.js, and testing this stuff. And then we'll wrap. Okay, sound good? All right. So these two are actually together. I didn't want to like redo like, I'm not gonna have them separate. So this is my 4th year at CodeMash. This is my first time speaking. It's actually my 2nd time. My first time was yesterday. But CodeMash looks a lot different for me now than it did in 2016 when I first came. I was just newly married, and now I bring my whole crew. We go to the water park. It's a lot of fun. Now, to me, the water park and CodeMash is even more fun now. KidsMash is great. I love that this conference is so family friendly. So they're all here, and I don't know what they're doing now, but hopefully they're having a good time. And then we had a little one in November, so that made things interesting preparing for this. So Currently, I work as a senior software engineer at a company called Comparative. We're a pre-Series A startup. I work remote. They're based out of Montreal. I work with people from all over the world. And it's really cool. So we're we play in the data analytics space. And the idea is that we take you straight to the insights that you're trying to get to. So still early, got a couple customers. It's fun work. I've been in the startup-y space for the last few years, and I've kind of learned that that's where I like to play. I'm halfway through an MBA program at Case, and then I cut my teeth at Progressive Insurance since 2015. Came up through there, was there for about 7 or 8 years, and then I've been at Comparative for the last 6 months. All right, so story time. So I was at Progressive at the time. I was maybe like year 4 or 5 as an engineer, I think, and I had someone reach out to me for a freelance opportunity, and it was a good opportunity. So I wanted to take it, even though I knew I was going to be doing a lot of hard learning along the way. So the client runs an annual conference in Northeast Ohio, and they have about 1,000 attendees a year. And so it's an event registration application. They had nothing previously, couldn't afford whatever else was out there. So it was like friend of a friend connected us, and it was an opportunity for both sides. Anyways, so I'm working on the app, getting ready for the 2020 conference, which is in March. And I'm in a hotel room working on user auth in 2019 of November and thinking to myself, shit, I have no idea what I'm doing. And this is hard. And it gets to the point where like I didn't have until March to get it done because registration needs to start in January. And so it's the end of November, right? And I realized like, I don't think I can do this. So I had to bail. So it was an epic fail. In 2020, I moved around at Progressive and landed at level 20, which is like a new business incubator for the company. We don't work on car insurance products, or they don't work on car insurance products. It's like other things in other markets and spaces. Anyways, I got a really good opportunity to learn AWS in that year. And so what I was able to do the next year was come back to my client and say, hey, can we try this again? And we launched that first year in March of 2021. And this will be the 3rd year now this March that we've had it running. It's nothing like too fancy. It's a small clientele base, but it was a lot of fun. And I will say this as an advocate for side projects or freelance work where you have to do it all yourself or do it with a small group. Those are the experiences for me where I have learned the most and have drawn on that experience the most. So don't let user auth stop you. We're going to talk about some of that stuff today. All right, so we're going to get into a demo. We're going to focus primarily on Cognito. So my goal for this session is to give you the confidence and a tool. It's not the tool. There's many out there by which to conquer user auth in your web apps. It's also possible, I'll say this as an aside, to use Cognito like for React Native or like it doesn't necessarily just have to be the web. But I'm a web guy, so that's where I'm going to focus. This slide was like burned into my brain because like this is as simple of an idea that I want to start with. I want to build an app that has a user sign up, log in, and then does something on like a home screen once they're authenticated. So orange is like, you know, unauthenticated, green is authenticated. That's as like simple as it gets. And that's like really hard. And there's a lot of people in this room who, you know, have confessed to have a shared experience as I did, like struggle with this. But that's what we're going to do. So I have an app I've worked on. I had an idea for an app because doesn't it all start with an idea? And so we're going to kick through that. So in honor of Ohio legalizing gambling this year, I have an idea to build a gambling website, and it's called Simple Bets. And I've already branded it with this cool like shirt and tie look. So it's simple, but it's professional. I just can't bring myself to, when I'm doing these presentations, to do a to-do app. It's so outplayed. But then you get into it and you're like, oh, I can see why now people do it, because I really don't have to do anything special. So anyway, take this idea here, and this is just an implementation of that idea. Here's a landing page. I can sign up, log in, and then place my bet. So it's in the early stages of development, so don't get too critical here. But all you have to do is type in a number and place your bet, and then it instantly tells you whether you won or lost. Simple bets, guys. Yeah, so then, I'm going to bet a little bit more. Oh, all right. Then you can log out, right? So that was 4 screens. You can't, like that, when I was actually going through and doing this, it still takes a lot of time to do it. And it's such a simple idea, but it is also, there's a lot of complexity. So we're going to break that down. We're going to break that down today. Why am I not going down? There we go. Okay. So we were talking about Cognito, but actually the tool that we're going to use to interface with Cognito is AWS Amplify. Hands if you are familiar with Amplify. A little bit. Okay. That doesn't surprise me. Like when I talk to folks, even folks who are familiar with AWS, like they're usually not touching Amplify. But I discovered Amplify via Authentication, and then I have used it for more than than just Authentication. So the app I actually have built for my client, the whole thing is on Amplify. It's like an app generation utility. It basically does your IAC, your infrastructure as code and cloud formation. Oh, you need a backend, you need a database, you need this. Like, just tell us the schema, and we'll spin it all up for you. And so Amplify has been super powerful. Actually, anytime I'm usually giving a talk, if I have to do a demo, I'm usually spinning up that app on Amplify, because all I really care about for the most part is the front end. The rest of it, I can just have Amplify do for me. So we're only going to use Amplify for a little bit of what it offers. And I think like that may be confusing to folks who are Amplify gearheads. It's like, why wouldn't you just use it for more? It's like, well, it's actually the best way, I think, to do authentication with Cognito is with Amplify. I don't need the rest of it to get this done. There's 2 other packages you can use to throw into your front-end application. And it's Amazon Cognito Identity.js. It's a mouthful. Why is this important to highlight? Amplify only lets you, by its configuration, authenticate with one user pool. So one database, so to speak. Cognito Identity will allow you to connect with more. And that's like a unique situation to be in. But one of our teams at Level 20 found themselves in that situation. And so they could not use Amplify. They had to use Cognito Identity.js. And then there's the AWS SDKs. And if you've ever hopped into the documentation for the AWS SDKs, you know how fun that is. It's like reading an encyclopedia. Amplify is so much more user-friendly. All right, so here's kind of all the things we're going to cover. Cognito, which, if you're not familiar with the AWS landscape, it is intimidating. Like the first time I encountered AWS, it's like, what is all of this stuff? Everything has a name, and it's a service. They're all services. And then so it's like, all right, what does that thing with that name actually serve a purpose? Okay, Cognito, that's user authentication. But it has taken me a long time to like build up this understanding of what all the services are within the ecosystem. And so even as I was doing this the first time, Cognito was really the thing that helped me start to get comfortable with the AWS interface. Our app is going to be a React front end, Express server, and then Postgres for a database. We're going to use Amplify to run the authentication for us. And then we're going to get into an advanced topic as part of this demo, which is, okay, now that you've authenticated the front end of your application, how do you use that authentication to also protect your API endpoints? So sending an authorization token through when you make those requests, verifying, validating that token before you serve back data. I guess I should do the demo now. Okay, so here's the app. And right now, I've basically shelled it out so that I can click through all of the different screens or the flow that I expect, but it's not really running any of the validation yet. It's just kind of shelled out. Okay, so I've got a couple of to-dos here because this turned out to be quite the beast when I was done with it. So I'm going to go through and help. Sorry about that. I'm going to go through these to-dos, so bear with me. I'm not a genie and like just rip through this from memory at this point. So this first to-do is install and set up Amplify. So Yarn, I'm going to use Yarn, by the way. Yarn add Amplify. Unfortunately, I don't think I uninstalled it for this part. So I'll just check here. Yeah, so this is the package right here, AWS Amplify. I'm just curious now to see if it'll actually let me. It'll probably say, you already have it. Okay, well, it was like I could have done that. Okay, so then the next step is to tell Amplify to hook it into our React application and then tell Amplify what to connect to. So I'm going to go through that now. So I'm just going to uncomment these two lines. So there's this file here. And by the way, this is like from the docs of Amplify, this file name. I'm trying to keep everything as like simple as possible so we can focus on the meat and potatoes. So I'm not changing a lot of the stuff that comes out of the box when you go and do this yourself. So I'm in my client folder, source, and I have this AWS exports.js file. And it's saying for authorization, that's the first property there, specify these three other properties, which is the region of AWS that we're working in. This is Ohio. This is a sports gambling for Ohio. I felt like it was appropriate to be in US East 2 and not US East 1. The user pool ID, which is going to be your Cognito. You can think of that as your provider for your authentication. And then also the user pool web client ID, which is going to be our app for our application. So I'm in like the index of my React application, and I'm doing this here. And why is it yelling at me? Hold, please. This is fun. To the internet we go. Here's the docs. Oh, I see. Still not sure why that's showing up that way. Oh, okay. Yep. The line below it? No, it's not, because it's a third party import. Maybe I can still, let me see if I'm able to run it. Yeah, I know. That's what I don't want right now. All right, bear with me, guys. I apologize. Oh, maybe I killed my. Let's see if it'll kick up. No, why is that? That's crazy. Let's do this. This is miserable. Let me try this. Yeah, good question. So maybe I need to restart my TypeScript server. Sorry. Imagine you're trying to do user auth and then you have to get through this roadblock too, you know? Anyways, that was supposed to be like the easiest part, which is these 3 lines you just stick into your app TSX or your index TSX, and this is how you wire up Amplify with your app to point to your Cognito instance. Yes. Sure. Yes. Yeah, but the file is not under source control. So this is only on my local, so it won't be checked in. Yeah, that's a good call. Okay, so here's what I want to do next. I actually want to show you what it's like to create a Cognito instance. Get out of here. Does this work now? Still? Go ahead. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, the user pool ID you would want to protect. I'm not sure. It's a good question. Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah, so I think though, like, so you had like this is like public, like you could think of these as like public keys, right? Like in order to actually get in and do anything in the user pool, you still have to have a user's like username and password. Like even though you may know the address of the house, the door is still locked. Correct. Oh, I didn't save. I mean, I think. What the heck is going on? All right, so let's try this. Finally. Golly. All right, so we did the configuration. Let's go to the next thing. All right, so now that we've got it configured, I think the next thing would probably be to work on sign up, right? So we have this sign up page. Like I said, I try not to do anything special. I'm using just, baseline HTML forms. So that would be over here. That's this page we're looking at. And so I should be able to fill out some stuff. And then I don't know if I'm logging this data, but I'll do that now. And I'll blow that up. Yeah, so there's the data in my form that I'm on when I hit submit, right? It should go to. I didn't use routing in this application, so it's a little tricky to get back to where I came from. Okay, so here's how this goes. Let's do const result equals await auth dot sign up. So auth is coming up here from Amplify. And it's, you ever hear this the phrase like write the code you wish you had? Like if I was writing the code I wish I had, it would be this. And that's why I like Amplify so much. Like I don't know all the back and forth that goes on with authentication. I just want to sign up. All right, so let's see what some of these params are that are in here. Username, password, attributes. Oh, we were going to set up a Cognito instance, weren't we? Let's go do that first. Okay, so I've got a couple here that I've been messing with, but I just want to show you how easy some of this is. So I'm going to call this, okay, so back up for 1 second. Welcome to AWS if you've never seen it before. But this is the, in fact, let me just go to the root, but oh my gosh. I hope that's the right password. There we go. All right, so manage user pools. There's a difference between user pools and identity pools. Identity pools has to do with your social federated providers, Facebook, Google, et cetera, et cetera. User pools are basically going to be like, hey, make me a database where I can authenticate into. So I've got a bunch here, and you can create them because they're cheap. In fact, it doesn't cost me anything to have all of these user pools here. So we'll call this Simple Bets for the demo. Nope, because we'll probably need another one. So I'm just going to review the defaults, right? I like to hit the easy button for as long as I can. So this is telling me, this is actually over on the left-hand side, it's telling me I'm at the last step. So I could, if I wanted to, click through all these things and make all these selections, but here I am at the review step. And so it's telling me the pool name, it's telling me my password, like the password requirements that it's selected for me. It's saying like email is a required attribute, meaning like, hey, when you sign up, make sure you pass the email in as well. There's an option to enable MFA. And then this one I actually do have to do. I have to add an app client. So this would be Simple Bets. Here I'm telling the Cognito instance, hey, there is a consumer of this authentication, and it's going to be my React app that I built.
You have to stand it up in AWS.
You can use Amplify outside of AWS. Good question. So you would do Amplify add. It's like Amplify has a CLI. So you could say Amplify add auth, and it'll spin up a cloud formation, and it'll put all the code into your repository, and then you can manage it from there if you wanted to. I find it helpful to be able to go into the GUI because I can't do everything from IAC. So
Using it outside AWS, you're still going to need to use it.
correct. Yeah, definitely. So this is like an important step is pit stop at Cognito. and make one of these. So I'm taking as many of the defaults as I can, but I know that I have to add this client, and then I'm also going to uncheck generate client secret. And it's telling me like, hey, when you've finished setting up this pool, you'll do that. And then the last thing I'm actually going to do is I'm going to add given name and family name, because I'm going to want to store first and last name. You can store a bunch of data incognito. If you wanted to keep your user object and schema incognito, you could outside of your own database. And so I'm just going to add that stuff because it makes it a little bit easier when I'm kicking through the flow to store that in my own database. So I'm going to create the pool, and boom, like I have the things I need. So here's this this identifier, this unique identifier. I think it's unique for US East 2. I have to imagine it is. So I'm going to kick back over here to my AWS exports file, and I'm going to say, hey, I got a different user pool I'm going to point to now. And then the reason I had to add the web client was because when I tried it without this thing in there, it barfed at me and said, you need a web client. I was like, okay. I tend to do a lot of error-driven development. Let's see, app clients. So this is going to tell me my client ID. Sorry, too many screens. All right, so that config file is really convenient because I can just create user pools left and right and switch them very easily into my application. Okay, so sign up. We were talking about this. Username, this is going to come from data.email. Password, this is going to come from data.password. And then I'm going to add some attributes, which is like this extra data that I want to bring along with my other data, the basically username and password data. So there's going to be email. I'm going to say, I think it was given name. So they don't have this concept of like first and last name. And so I'm like, okay, if my name's given to me, it's probably my last name. You guys are paying attention. Bam! So these variable names correspond to like how I put them on the inputs down here. Nothing fancy. By the way, like I learned a ton when I just try to go like no packages, just go straight HTML and JS. You're like, wow, there's actually not that much to it. Here I was importing like this huge package to try to do some fun stuff, and it's actually not that bad. Okay, so let's do console log result just to see what happens. Yeah. Clear this guy. This is the hardest part of so many forms to fill out. Let's do 222. You guys familiar with plus addressing? Oh man, I love it for testing. Yeah. Okay, so CodeMash 1. Okay, so this was the thing that came back. So this was me logging like whatever was in the form. And then this down here was like the cognito response. So it tells me about my user, not a whole lot. Code delivery details, it's telling me, oh, code delivery details. I wonder what that is. So what actually happened was I got 6-digit code sent to my email. I don't know if you can see this. 224844. So I wasn't expecting that because I wanted to just sign up and then log in. And so I point this out to you guys that this is the default configuration out of the box with Cognito. You can turn that off. And the way that you turn that off is there's an option to auto verify email or phone number. And I do that in my application I have with my client because I don't need the verification step. but out of the box, verifying the email is what comes with Cognito. So we're going to pivot a little bit and make that happen. So, all right. So first of all, now instead of going to the login screen, I need to go to the verify screen. After I sign up. So see, I've like bailed out of the flow now. I hope this will be the last time I have to do this one. 333. Sign up. Okay, so now I had this verify screen sitting there because I knew I would hit this. And so I'm going to go back to my email. I'm going to grab that code. Oh, here's a new one. Well, this is not letting me type because email. Say that again. I do. Yeah, so I'm trying to be sneaky here and supply the email for convenience mechanism. But I'm just gonna have to type it now. And then that was not my verification code. Okay, so what should happen after this? Homepage? Yeah, that could be one if I auto signed in. But actually, I have login coming next. So it's like, okay, all I've done is verify my email. Now I need to actually log in and authenticate. But before we do that, we have to write the code for it. So this is going to be const result equals await auth dot, I don't know, confirm sign up. So I think the username is going to come from props.email. No, that's from the form actually. All this is from the form. Data email and data.code, I called it down there. Like console log the result, right? And then I need to do set view. So I didn't bring a router into the application. All I did is I just have a single page and I'm just changing the view and I'm using like conditional logic to say, okay, now show this part of the app. If I had more time and wanted to get more robust about it, I probably would have done routing. It's a little bit easier for testing. And this is props.setView. So I'm saying, okay, I submit this form, call out to Cognito, confirm the sign up with the data that we got, and then go to login. So there's login now. And you can see here, the result I got back from Cognito was just the word success for confirmed sign up. So that was cool. Okay, how many to-dos do we have left? I think they're going away if I do well to delete them. Let's see. All right, so what's next? Login? Yeah. How about now we sign in with AWS Cognito? Const result equals await auth dot sign in data dot email password data dot password. That's it. 20. Okay, that was so subtle. All right, so let's do console log result. See what happens, I guess. Thinking of how to get out of this wormhole without doing it all the way. And so I'm going to actually, do I have logout still coded? It's on the home page. No, I don't. Okay, check this out. Await. Actually, you know what? I don't need to do this because I was going to show you guys how to do it without actually codifying. Okay, so we've coded sign up and we've coded the verify part, and now we're into the login part. And we just want to see what it looks like when I actually log in. Should have had a shorter email. Cool. This is my homepage. What happened? Looks like I was trying to call my API, and my API is like, what are you doing? It's because I haven't coded everything yet, Eric. But this is key. So what you're looking at here, and I'll expand this out further, is when I signed in, what was actually returned back to me was the Cognito user object. And there's a lot of good stuff in here. So the attributes, all the stuff that I signed up with is finally here. See, it has, it tells me a bunch of other information. The username is down here, which happens to be email. I guess I probably could have done username, just been like Kyle, and that might have worked with the implementation of Cognito. You can set it to say only email for username if you decide to go that route. That's the way I like to go. Let me show you what else is cool. So here's where all of the stuff is. So when you are interfacing with Cognito, it's doing a lot of the heavy lifting for you behind the scenes in the form of like a single function, and then it's stuffing these Cognito tokens in your browser. It's also doing the refreshing for you. I can't tell you how powerful that is. I got to thinking about this one time. I was like, what happens when the token expires if I try to spin my own auth? Because we were trying to do server side at work. And I was like, we're going to have to handle refreshing tokens. That doesn't sound fun at all. That might take us a week to do. Why don't we just do amplify on the front end, be done in 30 minutes, and then we'll just eat the cost. We had to do that twice because we had an iOS app and a web app. It's like, just do it twice. It's so fast. Sorry, got my soapbox there. Are you guys familiar with jwt.io? This thing's pretty cool. Let's see if it works. Yeah, so that's one of my tokens that was sitting in my browser. Look at all that stuff. This is your Cognito ID. We're going to store that in our database if we have enough time. And then it's showing me there's my Cognito username, my given name. So all that stuff is buried into that token, right? This is going to come in handy when we actually pass the token to the server side. We're going to unpack that token after we validate it and then put all that stuff in our database. We don't really have to do that, but anyways, if you're not familiar with JWT tokens, these are the things getting passed around, and they have all of the data in them. Anyways, how am I doing, security guy? Okay, that's fair. That's totally fair. I'm good with that. I can live with that. C's get degrees, you know what I mean? Okay, so let's see where we were at. So we signed in. So what I was gonna do was show you that, hey, if you don't have logout implemented, just clear this, and now you're logged out according to the browser. So if I go back here now, I haven't even actually implemented any login structure. So let me just I'll log in one more time. But what I actually wanted to do was after login, I think I'm already doing it, I've already signed in with AWS Cognito. So I've got, this is really a user. Okay. And then here, and we're actually coming up on time. I'm probably going to pivot a little bit here and go back to what this code looked like beforehand. Let me see if I can do that now. So I'm going to say stash. I think I can do that. Yeah. Okay. So what's our login page actually look like? So here I've logged in with Cognito. Pull this up a little bit better. And then I have this part where I'm actually fetching a user from the at login. I'm authenticating with Cognito, which lives over here. And then I'm still running through my API over here, passing that token and saying, okay, get me this user and all of the bets that they've made up until this point. And then I'm redirecting to the home page. So let's go to the home page and see what's going on there. So once I get here to the home page, I'm fetching that bet information. So I think if I save this, I don't think I've actually, I think I need to like probably sign up and, because I've completely changed my. You guys tired of watching me do this? There we go. See that email getting passed over there? That was cool. I did. I know I missed it. It's painful. And I apologize. Rookie mistake. How can I get the password right? Here we go. Okay. Yeah. Why the hell did it not go to the home page? Look at that. Oh, I wonder if I had. Oh man, you don't even get to show this thing. All right. Well, we're gonna bail on that for a minute. I want to go to talk about the back end a little bit. So hopefully you've gotten the idea of how easy it is to use Amplify. The documentation is great. Whatever you haven't gotten from me today, go out there. You now have a Kickstarter, right? So you'll be able to kick through it like I did. See where I'm trying to get to now. Token middleware. Okay, so this is some token middleware, and token, not in the way I use token at the start of this presentation, but let me see if I can get to any hands if you're familiar with an Express. You've written an Express server before. Okay, so a little bit. So if you haven't, like, try it out. It's also, I tend to do things that are intuitive and easy, and so like Express is one of those things, I think. So I've got like a couple of API endpoints here. And what I was going to do was show you how to pass the authentication token that we get from Cognito to your API so that you can secure your APIs with the Cognito tokens that you're making. So this token, this is like an advanced like thing, and it took me some time to even wrap my head around. But I tried to break it down into the steps so that if you need to do something like this, you can come back to it and draw from it. So the first thing we're going to do is grab the token from the authorization header, which means we actually have to have passed the authorization header. See where I passed that? Those utils. Yeah. So here's my API custom wrapper function. And what I'm doing here is passing as an authorization header the token in front of the keyword bearer. I don't need the keyword, to be honest. I'm not even using it, but if you have multiple forms of authentication, it comes in handy. And I'm just pulling from auth.current session. Like, that's the cool thing about Amplify. It's like, hey, give me the token I need. And there's a function for it. Oh, and it's two other calls too: get access token, get JWT token. But you get I'm able to do that pretty easily. Now, once I do that, I grab the token when it comes in, thank you, and I have to decode it because I need something out of the token called a key identifier or something like that. A KID is the ID of it. And so I'm using a package called JSON Web Token. And this package is highly used on NPM. We're talking millions of downloads. So this is not an uncommon thing for people to have to go through. Then I fetch the public key from the Cognito identity provider. So I'm using JSON well-known something. Do you know this one? Yes. What does it stand for? It's like well-known. Something like that. Okay. Yeah. So what's really interesting is if I go to this environment variable I have here, Cognito exposes the same pattern for this very thing in all of their user pools. So when you ever have to do this, like decode and verify a token on your server, this is exposed on a URL. So if I actually click this, right, I can see, I can just go and get that. Now, some of you are probably like, how is any of this secure? And so that's the thing, though, is that I think the way that I see that, the way this is working, is the token that got created, which is step 2 there, so where I'm decoding the token, I'm taking something out of it that is secret. And then I'm pulling in the public side, and I'm matching them together to verify that this token did, in fact, come from this user pool. That's important. Because if you weren't doing this, then it could be like, hey, I just need a jot token with the right stuff that's there in it. The way I think about it anyways. So I take the token, I take the private key out of it, I get the public key, I match them up, and that's the verify step down here. Not taking the private key out?
Private key stays on Cognito.
Yeah.
Identifier up in JWKS. Token you have was signed with this private key that's affiliated with that public.
Okay. What he said. Yep.
The step where you're doing verify.
Yeah, so I didn't throw any error handling in here to keep things simple. So you're going to see that stuff littered all over this code base. My hope is like you'll look at it, like you guys will look at this later once I put it up and be like, oh man, he should be error handling or doing like form validation here. And it's like, yeah, I should. But I didn't want to muddy the water with all that stuff. So good call. Okay, so like let's move back to the slides now. We covered most of the demo. I think I've gotten the point across. Okay. All right, so let's talk about the rest of this stuff with the remaining time that we have. So you saw when we created the user pool, there was an option to enable MFA, right? So that's incognito. We're not going to have time to dig into that today, but I wanted to tell you that that's also available. So if you start to like Amplify and you like Cognito, like you're that much closer to doing even cooler stuff with MFA. And that's part of it. It's in the Amplify docs too. Those are great docs. Social login, same story, right? It's in the Amplify docs. It's part of the Cognito user pool setup. OTP, I'm nervous to talk about this with this guy sitting here, but I would say, man, don't do it. I spent like, I was working with a team and we were spending way too much time on thinking about authentication as we were building a new product that had 0 customers. And we were trying to like differentiate on authentication. I thought it was such a waste of time. So I did a study with like 300 people on one of the like user Zoom or something. If any product people in here have ever done stuff like that, but I asked folks for a financial application, if you had the choice between username and password or one-time password, which is like every time you log in, they send you a 6-digit code to your email. 76% of the people were like, I'll take username and password. And that was for a financial application. And that was like the focus of it. So like we had this theory that like OTP, people preferred it. It's like cooler. And then also like, where's the second factor with OTP? You like skip the password part. And so it feels less secure to me. And in fact, like the 6-digit code is like what, 6 digits instead of something much longer and more complex. So that's why I say, man, don't do it. Any parting thoughts on that one?
Technically, with OTP, your multi-factor never channel. They're getting that OTP.
Oh, like because they're logging into their email.
They have to have control of their email box, so it's up to them to have multi-factor on their email.
Right. Question. MFA? Yeah, so MFA, like, that's a great question. So I have that as one of my next slides, I think. Yeah, so time-based one-time passwords, which is like the 6-digit code I was getting in my email from Cognito. I have tried to mock that for testing. It's not possible so far as I can tell. If somebody in this room can, yeah. Unless you have a business account, they block that. Okay. Got it. Okay. So that's what I'm putting up here is like if you end up getting into a situation where you're doing some advanced authentication and it's the roadblock for you testing your application, here's some ideas. Mail Slurp gives you like programmatic access to emails. I've used SendGrid in the past as well. Twilio is a great option if you can get a business account, apparently. Or you could just auto-verify the email and phone. But I'm sure like there's some security guy somewhere who's like, that's not going to be good enough. So this is the app I built. We don't have time to go through it. That's fine. And the last thing I want to do is talk about just Passport because we didn't get to get into it. This is another good option, but it's a different approach to the authentication. With Cognito, we were doing primarily our authentication in the client, right? All of that's coming from the client. That's kind of the space I like to play in. Passport's going to be a little bit more on like the server side. So you're going to be creating that session on the server side. You'll pass your username and password directly to your server instead of to Cognito. Yeah. Mm-hmm. How does it work with cores?
Because the browser should be blocking it. Cognito doesn't enable it.
Yeah, so one of the things I had in my, I had this right here. I'm not exactly sure what that does, but it's just keeping things quiet so I can do what I want to do. But yeah, you're right. If you're getting cross origin, you're going to experience those cores issues. But I think if you're on the same origin, which is if you're talking about Cognito though, right?
Well, Cognito is at Amazon.
Yeah.
You are running on local host.
Yeah.
So your browser is going to another third party.
Yeah. Yep.
So the browser should be okay.
Yeah.
Except if Cognito has whitelisted everything.
Well, I think like because I guess I have never thought about or worried about cores when calling Cognito because I've never had that issue because I'm authenticating with it in some way by passing like a web client ID or yeah. Okay. There's my stuff if you want to access it for later. I will put the code up in that repo so you can go around and mess with it yourself. Thanks for coming to the talk. Hopefully, maybe you see the power of Amplify and Cognito and maybe inspired to try to tackle your user auth with those tools. Have a great rest of your CodeMash. Thank you.